7 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we're to show this is the board member present. For policy 0167.3, anyone wishing to participate in the period of public comments must be a resident of the Richland School District, the parent or legal guardian of an enrolled district student, or an enrolled district student. The speakers are not permitted to make inflammatory comments, use inappropriate language or gestures, attack specific persons, or make a specific person the subject of their remarks. Please see policy 0167.3 for a complete list of requirements and restrictions. If a person is unable to adhere to these rules, they may be directed to end their comments. Mrs. Steele?
None.
Thank you. All right, on to reports. District Administrator's report.
Okay, several announcements and updates for the board and our community. First off, more of a community mention here. There's a community forum that's going to be held on Wednesday night at the bowling alley starting at 6 p.m. Those of you may remember about a year ago when the school district was looking to go to referendum. We had a community forum down at the bowling alley. It's a collaboration effort between the school, the city, the county. We kind of took the main, I say we, the school district kind of took the main stage at that particular forum. We will still be a part of that forum, but the county will probably be the keynote speaker for that. But I did want to let board members and our public know that that is taking place on Wednesday starting at 6 p.m. And if you're not able to attend, it will be on YouTube through Mr. Perry and Nova Video. Secondly, a couple of appreciation weeks and months coming up here. February 3rd through the 7th, so that'll be before our next meeting. That is National School Counselors Week, so make the board aware of that. And then also the month of February is declared Career and Technical Education Month. So we'll have an opportunity to celebrate our CTE programs. And we may have some more information at our February board meeting, but I wanted to make sure that you were aware of those two things. Moving on, our open enrollment window is opening up. There are two windows that the DPI has now. One is the traditional open enrollment window, and that starts on February 3rd and runs through April 30th of 2025. So any parents who might be considering the Richland School District as a place to educate their children can apply online, or they can come directly to us. That online website is dpi.wi.gov/OE for open enrollment. So again, February 3rd through the 30th is the traditional open enrollment window. After April 30th is the alternative open enrollment process. And so the board has seen alternative open enrollment requests come through. So parents can still apply, it's just a little different procedure after that deadline. And then finally, there were 6 of us that attended the Wisconsin Education State Convention in Milwaukee last week, Tuesday through Friday. Myself, Mr. Josem, Dr. Johnson, Ms. Stoltz, as well as 2 board members, Ms. Troxel and Ms. Dickman. I think we'd take an opportunity here during the district administrator reports to at least have the administrators talk about some of the things that they saw, and then in the board member reports, board members can do so too if they wish. I myself always find it extremely helpful and beneficial to be down in Milwaukee talking to peers. My focus really was taking in sessions as it relates to up-to-date legal updates as well as state budget updates. This is the end of the biennial budget. A new biennial budget will happen this July, and so it's nice to get some inside information on where both parties are thinking, what the state's thinking, what Governor Evers is thinking, and where the legislation's at. So that's always helpful. And then I also attended some attendance and demographic data sessions as well. Why don't we just go around here, Mr. Josem, if you wouldn't mind, put you on the spot first and give a quick recap.
So this was the second year that I've attended the convention. So again, first of all, thank you to the board for allowing me to do that. At the convention, there are certainly many sessions going on at the same time, so sometimes it's kind of hard to choose because you can't be at both places at once. But some of the ones that I did attend talked about increasing school attendance, specialized design of special ed classrooms. That was kind of interesting, where they talked about like the square footage that you need for certain populations. Fostering equity and inclusion. There was certainly a Title IX discussion because there's been a lot of changes with Title IX. And then also, like Mr. Board said, anytime that you can attend a legal session, which I did, so changes in school law, I did attend that. And just before I pass the mic to Dr. Johnson, I also thought and felt that it was just as beneficial to have time to talk with board members. I think we certainly get to know each other on a more personal basis, and then certainly while we're eating, we talk about things that are impacting the district. So I also felt that was quite beneficial as well.
I too am thankful for the opportunity to get to join those that attended the convention. It was always eye-opening. I think this is my 4th year attending, and I still am learning all kinds of new things. A lot of things based around education, teaching, learning, all those types of things. Things like AI was one that was hit pretty hard. Another one that I really enjoyed was about an acronym here, EMLSS. You may have heard of RTI, which is Response Intervention. Then they changed it to MLSS, which is Multi-Level Systems of Support. Now it's Equitable Multi-Level Systems of Support. So learning lots of new things. It's kind of fun to be able to go, a majority of these presenters, because I avoided the legal stuff, I let those who are into that do that. I do more of the instructional pieces, and that's very much getting to hear peers discuss what they do, how they do it, how it works for them, how they got to that point. It's really, really great information. Also getting to watch musical performances from other school districts. I always really enjoy that, seeing the state superintendent, the governor, and as Sean said, just getting to spend time with our people. I think that that's so valuable, learning more about each other as professionals and our goals and aspirations, and I think that that's always helpful. We work together better when we know each other more. So thank you for that chance.
Ms. Stoltz, do you want to give were able to attend as well? Maybe give the mic to a communications expert.
It's dangerous, I know. It was obviously my first time attending, as we've been here about 8 months now. It was extremely eye-opening for me to see so many people in education, so many people who care so much about the kids that are in Wisconsin. Lots of great ideas from other school districts, what they're doing to bring the community into their school district more, what they're doing to get their kids out into the community more, what they're doing to increase diversity within their community and their student population, and how they're working to embrace that, and how to make those connections among peers. A couple great ideas that I helped to implement is more focused on our alumni. I feel like some other districts are doing a really great job of engaging their alumni. We have 60 years of history that is here in our community and outside in the greater world that hopefully we can tap into. And I'll echo what Sherry and Sean have said. It was so nice to get some time with board members. Sheila and Robin are fantastic people I already knew, but just getting to know them on a more personal level was so helpful. And our team members too, but I see these guys every day. So, but it was a really great experience. I'm extremely thankful to the board for giving me the opportunity to attend. Communications was a track there, which was so amazing to see that more districts are embracing the need to communicate with their public and their board and their people. Really great experience and very grateful. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. And then, not to step on your toes here, Mr. Umbehan, but maybe when we get to the board member, we can just start with Ms. Troxel and then I'll flow right in. But again, thanks to all the administration for your updates and for joining us down at the state convention. So, Any questions from the board regarding anything they heard from administration, either some of those updates or questions specifically for admin?
What's a normal day like, as far as kind of 8 to 5, and then everybody goes to dinner?
I think they started at the general sessions, or the first session started right around 8, and then there's usually a session, breakfast, a general session, lunch, a couple of breakout sessions again in the afternoon. Usually wraps up around 4:30, 5 o'clock, and then we had things planned with our group every night except Thursday, well, actually even Thursday night, so our conversations, as these folks mentioned, just kind of continued. But the actual sessions are pretty close to an 8 to 4:30 kind of time frame. At least Wednesday and Thursday. Friday got done a little early. Tuesday when we got down there was pre-registration, and Ms. Dickman had some pre-delegate assembly commitments on Tuesday night. Okay, thank you.
Board member reports.
Well, this was my second year in attending, and I was really happy to see that there were a lot more sessions this year, specifically towards board members. I think the common message, no matter what session we attended, was trust and transparency. It was interesting to talk to other board members across the state. They had the same concern about referendums and very tough decisions that were going to have to be made if their districts, their referendums did not pass. I went to a class on building bridges, which was strengthening the board and the superintendent relationship. And some of that were different ideas from different schools, which was very helpful. One was, for example, including community engagement, and then bring those goals back to the board. And then through the year, we check to see if those goals are being met, which we've been working on that anyway. So that was nice to see that we were kind of already doing that. The board's role in effective district communication. One school I thought, which was interesting, does a mission moment highlight, and that was a moment to highlight a student, teacher, or staff member, which usually wouldn't come in front of the board. So it was kind of nice that that was a suggestion they had. They were very, wanted us to make sure we stay aligned to our goals. Always keep your board in the loop. When sending out communication to the family in the districts, make sure to include the board in those so we know also what's happening. I went to one team building, board members and administration, and that was something that I will agree with everyone, that I think when you get out of kind of this role, that you can really see them as real people and see some of the challenges they face, and that I can't recommend it enough that if you're, as a board member, if you haven't been able to go, it's really something that you should try to attend. They talked about being comfortable about asking questions, be honest and candid, have clear expectations, and sometimes the questions are tough to ask. But it was just interesting to see how other schools handled those situations. I went to Thriving School Boards, which are best practices for student success. I went to the 21st Century School Board, and the last one I attended was Pay Your Staff, Not Your Insurance Company, and that was all about self-funding health insurance. And I listened to 4 different schools speak about it, and how it's been very successful in their schools, and that a lot of employees wish that they would have been offered it earlier. So it was just interesting to actually hear when you're on the front line and seeing what wasn't working and what was working. So I would, again, just highly recommend it.
All right, well, thank you everybody for your attending that convention, and your feedback. So we'll all have homework and things to work on, so thanks again. All right, foreign exchange program.
Okay, so if you tried to click on the video presentation, you probably ran into an error, and that timed out on us. We do have it fixed now, so what I would ask the board to do is maybe between now and the next board meeting, have an opportunity to look at that video presentation from our foreign exchange program, and then we'll invite Mrs. Fry back to answer any questions, or if you have any questions that come up in the meantime, you're welcome to email me and we'll get you some answers. But I apologize for the technology snafu there. So, but it is available now.
On to the minutes. I'll make a motion to approve the prior meeting minutes of January 13th, 2025. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Bailey. Discussion? Mr. Bailey?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Right, financial items, approval of statement of cash and invoices.
I move we approve the statement of cash dated January 21st, 2025, and Community Disbursement General Checking Accounts number 86952 through 86980, and ACH number 242502570 through 242502666 for a net total of $412,231.13. This is for the purpose of general operating costs of the district.
Motion was made by Mr. Dowdna. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded Mr. Huntemer. Discussion? Mr. Van Landijk.
Aye.
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 Right. Update bond sales and proceeds.
Okay, so the board is aware that there was a referendum that was passed, and we purchased our bonds in 2 phases. $15 million was sold last July. We have received the proceeds for that. The remaining 12, some change, will be sold here in the near future. Mr. Mullen from Baird was here at our last board meeting talking to us about that. Obviously, we haven't spent $15 million in referendum costs yet, and so from the time that we've received that money, as we're paying this out, this money and the additional money that we receive in the second sale is sitting in various accounts with PMA. And Charles from PMA is online, and he's going to give the board an update on where those bond proceeds sit today and possibly what we can expect moving forward. So Charlie or Charles, I'm not sure which you prefer to go by.
Hello everybody, can you hear me and see me okay?
Yeah, you sound good, and I think Ms. Stoltz, if we can maybe put him in speaker mode so he's large on the screen, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you for the introduction. I've just put a couple slides together here to run through sort of our current investments and kind of spending schedule for the issue 1 and then issue 2 as well. So I'll just share those and we can walk through them together and we'll open it up for questions. Is everybody seeing my screen okay?
No.
Oh. Here we go.
Yes.
All right. So just to walk through, and you're seeing the slide deck, correct?
That is correct.
All right. So just to review the total project cash flow, as Mr. Board said, the district has broken up the bond issues into 2 separate issues. So you took receipt of the first $15 million at the end of July last year. And most of that was invested out into what we call fixed rate investments. So a mix of certificates of deposits, CDs, U.S. Treasuries, and other, state statute allowable investments. And then those mature as the district is expected to incur project costs. And those investments kind of mature into various liquid money market funds that also, pay a good interest rate to the district. So far, we've gone through about 6 months, and monthly draws are a little bit behind as expected, but that's not necessarily a bad thing because you've been collecting additional interest on the funds that have not been spent yet. So you're expected to spend out this first issue sometime in September of 25, and then looking at the second issue, which will be sold sometime in the near future for the remaining 12 million and change. We're currently expecting to take receipt of that sometime here in the spring. And until those project funds are needed, those funds will be invested as well, kind of as invoices are expected to be paid out for those funds. And we see a lot of that heavy spending in the summer months of 2025 and then way out at the end in the summer months and fall months of 2026. So related to bond issue 1, the current investment earnings projection is a little under $670,000 of interest that the district would be able to keep that was generated off that first $15 million of bonds that were issued. And that's a weighted yield of 4.664%. So over the course of the issue, the expected life of the funds, that's kind of the number we're looking at for interest earnings projections as of now. And as of year-end 2024, the investments were broken down 11 million, a little over 11 million was broken into kind of the fixed rate investments like I mentioned, so the CDs, treasuries, etc. And then the rest was split between various money market funds, state, local government investment pools. So the state LGIP and then the WISC fund, and a little under 3 million was invested in that. Compared to what we originally showed the district and anticipated back in June when we made up the initial interest earnings projections, we're doing quite well. Initially we projected around 580,000, and now just due to interest rates staying higher for longer than we expected, as well as slightly slower project expenditures, we're projecting, like I mentioned, a little under 670,000. So just a little market update on the broad interest rate market and what we're kind of expecting out of the Federal Reserve for interest rates going forward. So in the latter half of 2024, we started to see the Fed cut interest rates. So a lot of the money market instruments that the district and anyone who were invested in, we saw those rates dropping down. But because the district was able to protect a lot of that first $15 million by locking in those fixed rate investments, we ended up earning, substantially above what the Federal Reserve rate and money market rates were. And as we see in this graph here, we expect the Fed rate to continue to be cut over the next 2 to 3 years. But a lot of those fixed rate options like FDIC CDs and US Treasuries are staying pretty strong and not necessarily dropping as quickly as the standard Federal Reserve liquid rate. And that's advantageous for the kind of using the same strategy as we did with the first issue for the second issue. So when the second issue is brought to market and closes in sometime this spring, we'll use a similar strategy where we invest a lot of those dollars into fixed rate investments in accordance with the projected spending to lock in as much interest rate as possible so that the district isn't subject to potentially lowering liquid interest rates. So right now we're projecting a little over $600,000 in interest for issue 2. And those are, early projections based on investment rates we're seeing in the market today. But in combination with issue 1, that would be almost $1.3 million in total interest on the referendum funds that the district could use for additional projects. And that's kind of the short synopsis that I had. Just if you guys had any questions, I would be happy to take those as well.
So Charlie, this is Scott Bailey. With you saying that the spending is behind what we initially expected, does that put us in any kind of penalty area for arbitrage and actually earning too much in interest?
Good question. So I wasn't exactly on the bond issuance side, but one great thing about running this kind of strategy where you issue in 2 separate pieces is that both pieces are under $15 million. or equal to. And that $15 million mark is a really important mark. It's called the small issuer exemption. So when a district issues $15 million or less, they're actually exempt from those arbitrage penalties and don't have to meet certain spend downs. So essentially, slowing down spending, since you're exempt from that arbitrage penalty being at or under the $15 million, is not hurting you guys.
Perfect. And then the second question I have is with essentially the spending from the first issuance not coming out as quickly, does that change the strategy for how we invest the second issuance, where we can possibly put some of that money into a little bit longer holdings for a higher interest rate, potentially?
Yeah, that's a good question as well. I think there's absolutely a strategy there. I think that as we get closer to the second issue coming, we'll want to, along with the district, get an updated draw schedule from your construction manager Nexus to see exactly where the draws are projected to come in for the remainder of the project. And if there is ability to invest that second issue out longer than expected, just due to a slower project completion date overall, that could definitely be advantageous to the district. It's definitely possible though that once the weather starts getting better and we get into these summer months, that project, you could catch up on the project. So that's something that we'll want to work with the district and Nexus Solutions on.
Thank you.
Any other questions other than your minds rolling on how to spend 1.3 million? All right, thank you, Charlie.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
I did upload the slide deck as well, so board members, if you refresh, or public, if you're looking for the information that was presented, it is available on board docs now.
All right, Mrs. Steele, consent agenda items.
Motion to approve the consent agenda items. Motion to accept the donation of money valued at approximately $1,000 from Smiles for a Child organization. Motion to accept the donation of hats, mittens, and gloves valued at approximately $80 from Kiwanis Club of Richland Center. Motion to accept the donation of coffee pots, baked goods, treats, and calendars valued at approximately $40 from Community First Bank. And motion to approve the acceptance of funds from the Alliance for Wisconsin Youth, Wisconsin Wins program, and the state opioid response as presented. And that is it.
I'll make the motion to approve consent agenda items. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Ms. Troxel. Discussion. Mr. Dowdna?
Aye.
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 Aye. Is there a motion to approve the modified agenda?
So approved. So moved, sorry.
Motion made by Mr. Van Landine. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Bailey. Discussion. Mr. Hunterberg?
Aye.
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 On behalf of the Board of Education, I would like to thank the Smiles for a Child organization, the Kiwanis Club of Richland Center, and Community First Bank for their generous donations. All right, information and discussion items, district transfers and vacancies.
Okay, so you'll see on the chart there, under the 9A agenda item, that we have our first 25-26 position. We're looking for a speech and language pathologist for the primary school for next year. We do have some other vacancies we're aware of, but this was one we wanted to get a head start on, given the high needs area that speech and language pathologist is in. That posting just closed here recently, and so we will be looking at applicants and then determining whether or not we've got to extend the posting or start the interview phase. Other than that, we are full for this year, and any questions from the board? Thank you.
RSD Foundation Financial Report.
Okay, so the Richland School District Foundation is a partner with the Richland School District. Their bylaws have the district administrator as a member of their board, which I am. They also have an appointed position from the school board. Mr. Bailey serves in that role. The foundation is a nonprofit 501c3 organization. Typically has been a housing of scholarship money, as well as a supporter of really all things educationally based, but fine arts, probably as much of a focus as anything, aside from scholarships. Some of their scholarships that they house are pass-through funds, where the donor writes a check to the foundation immediately turns that back to the recipient after the award ceremony, and some of them are scholarships that are housed within the foundation. A memorial, those kinds of things, money is given with the intent of the foundation being able to issue that scholarship for multiple years, okay? Recently, the foundation has surpassed the $1 million mark in money that they are housing, and so in a recent audit from the IRS, they now have to change the way they do their taxes, and part of that is to ensure that the Richland School District is aware of their taxes that are filed. And so you'll see the attachment there, the 2023 taxes that were filed on behalf of the Richland School District Foundation, and as part of their obligations, bringing that to the board's attention. And so that's what this agenda item is for. If you get a chance to look them over and you have any questions, please let me know, or let Mr. Bailey know. We'll make sure that we get it on an agenda item at the foundation, which meets the third Monday of the month at 5:30, and we'll get you answers. But again, this is just for information and wanted to fulfill an obligation that the foundation had as part of their audit process. Did I miss anything, Mr. Bailey?
Sure.
Any
I have one
questions?
question.
Yes, please.
You've taught us before that a healthy fund balance, you've determined kind of a ratio of what's anticipated for our district to meet the needs. Is there a healthy fund balance on the foundation? Because to hear $1 million sounds like a rather large surplus, but I don't know the inner workings and how much is given out. But do you have a target area for what could be distributed on a given year, or like should somebody petition the foundation to be a little extra generous in the upcoming year, that type of thing?
Yeah, great question. So the foundation's operating expenses are relatively minimal. I believe that it was just approved, I can't remember the number off the top of my head, 5,000, 6,000, somewhere right in there for their general operating costs. Most of the money that they have in there is received from donors, and the donors, when they set up the scholarships, have given the foundation the criteria that they need to follow. And so it's not necessarily the foundation saying we have X number of dollars available, let's give out more or less. It's more when they have accepted the funds for, let's just say, $500,000, and they say every year we want 3 students, $10,000 each, and then allow the interest earnings to fund that, and it will be available forever or for the next 50 years. The donor will give the criteria on how aggressively to spend it in almost all cases. Again, did I miss anything?
There are a lot of the times when we end up approving donations that they help fund the vape detectors in the bathrooms. That money is based off of interest earned on the foundation money. So when it's a pass-through, that is just simply, I write a check and they turn around, and so I can get the tax break on it and do it to the a 501c3, and then they write that check out to the student. So it's just the money that we house. So we're not fundraising necessarily. We're not going out to try to earn money from the outside. But those funds then that are brought for the benefit of the schools and the students. So helping out with things in the auditorium, helping out with things in the library, whatever the case might be. So there's not a fund balance per se, specifically.
The other thing I wanted to add to that, as a business, we've done many scholarships through the years, and we specifically have to write it either to the foundation or to the school, to the student. So that's another issue, that's why we have to write it to one of those organizations.
Okay, thank you.
Referendum projects update.
Okay, so you heard some information from PMA regarding the proceeds. You may have seen in the memo there at this point, we've spent about 1.5 million of that 27 million. Most of that is, in fact, very little, outside of the roof, is actual projects, it's engineering, it's all the permits, it's DNR, it's all of that kind of surveying, fees on the front end. Once school is out and construction is happening at the primary school, which is scheduled to start, immediately after school this June and carrying through the summer, that's when you're going to start to see a lot more bigger checks wrote out to Nexus, who is the facilitator, and then they pay all of their contractors. But I did want to give a little bit of information on the intermediate school. I shared with you kind of the primary school parking lot when we were at the same phase. We're about 75% through the design phase of the intermediate school. And bear with me 1 second as I share my screen, or attempt to. What did I do wrong? You're curious? Is that this? Oh, thank you. Okay. If I did that, great, but I'm guessing it was you. So we're about 75% through the design phase of the intermediate school. Let me back up just a little bit. We are practically all done with the design phase of the primary school, with the exception of furniture and fixtures, those last pieces. Each building had a furniture and fixture allocation. We have decided, unless the board directs otherwise, but I think it's in their best interest, to hold off a little bit on furniture until we get all of the bids for all 3 buildings, okay? Instead of spending and allocating the amount of money that was allocated for furnitures at the primary school, only to do this again when the bids come in for the intermediate and the high school. We think we'll get a better bang for our buck, and we'll also get more consistency if we wait until the end, which will be sometime this summer, and then say, okay, now we've got this furniture and fixture allocation. We didn't have to dip into it because everything ran on or at budget, or we've got a little bit more, and the board can help determine that number. Then we'll get economy of scale. Instead of trying to put a bid out for 7 classrooms at the primary school, we'll be able to now say we have, these are hypothetical numbers, but 65 classrooms throughout the district. And therefore we should get better pricing, we should get better standards, make sure that we're not out of stock when we do it the next time. So for all practical purposes, the primary school's design is done, but there is that one caveat that we're waiting on furniture and fixtures until the other bids are done. It's a little different approach than if we were to be building a building or building a wing where we don't have furniture for that new building or new wing. Then schools are going to have something. We're really, this entire referendum is deferred maintenance and remodeling, not construction. So I think it's in our best interest to wait. Okay. With that being said, moving on to the intermediate school. This is, make sure it shows up here. This is kind of an aerial view sketch of what they have for parking lot, parent pickup, drop-off at the intermediate school. If you recall, this was one of our big goals, to make sure that we had safer drop-off and pickup access at our buildings, as well as finding a system that all of our buses can be at one location at one time. This will open up opportunities for us to stagger starting and ending times of schools, reduce bus time riding for students. Instead of having half of our buses at the intermediate school, half at the primary, while they're sitting on the bus, they go to the other building and swap before they continue their route. This will allow us to strategically have buses at the end of the day be at each of the buildings and have all of our buses there. So that was one of the goals that we have. So just to get your bearings here, if you can see my cursors kind of over here on the left, This is County Road RC. There is a restructuring of the entrance here where there's 2 lanes going out onto RC to the south where folks can turn to the left or to the right, and then 1 entrance in, but once they get into the school grounds, it will split off to where parents primarily will be going to the right and entering the parking lot area, and buses will stay on the straightaway and they will stay more in front of the building. You'll see some concrete that is being added here to the west side of the parking lot, map north, as well as concrete sidewalk added here to the north side of the parking lot for a lot of different options for parent pickup or drop-off, depending on how it's configured. This is configured to be able to be where buses in the morning can drop students off in front of the building, where all the parent drop-off can happen over here in the parking lot, or it's arranged that it could also be configured to where in the morning parents follow the blue pickup, or drop-off, and they're dropping their students off on this sidewalk, where buses are coming in and then dropping students off on this sidewalk. Why would we want 2? Well, depending on if playgrounds are accessible, depending on how the intermediate school daily bell schedule runs on any given year with any given administrator, we want to make sure that we have both options. If the idea is that students are going to go right into the building, then they're going to probably be dropped off by the buses in front of the buildings. If the idea that they're going to go right to the playgrounds, then they could be dropped off closer to this playground area. And go back to the full view here. In addition, if you look at the east side, or map south, this light gray line here, this is existing fence that we have already on our property line. There is a maintenance shed right here on the bottom of this map. We will be connecting this existing fence, go in front of the maintenance shed, and then completely enclose the playground area with a motorized key fobbed access for delivery drivers and maintenance vehicles to get in here. This will allow all of our students to stay in an enclosed area when they exit the building for recess. We've had times over the years where students have become runners, and there's so much space that they've been able to get off of school grounds or get closer to the river or over in this area. This will be a much safer situation for our students because they will be all enclosed, any of these exits that they come out for recess or the playground area. This particular map that you're looking at here, our drawing, is a little outdated at our last meeting with Nexus a couple weeks ago, and it's not reflected yet. The playground area is still, this is the existing playground area, and then they've got some hard surface area for some gaga ball courts, as well as some basketball hoops, things like that. Because of the fill that is needed right in this area to the south, they've actually been able to turn that 90 degrees and fit it in a little angle like this, where they can still get all of the same thing. It's just going to be twisted 90 degrees, and that will require less fill, where the landscape just simply slopes off very quickly. So it'll look a little different on the next drawings that you see, but the playground area will be in that general area. Gaga pits, 4 square pits, basketball, as well as our existing playground will be here, and it will all be in an enclosed fence. So that's the general idea here. Parking lot for parental pickup in the afternoon. Again, all of our buses would be parked in front along the concrete area here, as well as on this concrete area here. Nice crosswalk that we've got. Yes, we will need some adult supervision around as well, but parents, go back to this other model, parents that are picking their students up, once those students are to their cars, if they're parked anywhere in this parking lot here at the end of school, they will be exiting out behind the last bus so that we avoid that intermixing of, as much as possible, that intermixing of parental traffic and bus traffic. So essentially all parents will be exiting the property to the south onto County Road RC, where they can then turn right to go on Highway 80, or they can turn left to come in the backside over by the primary school, and our buses will be exiting off on Highway 80 to the traditional exit of the property. So that's really what I wanted to update you on. A lot of the other updates that are happening are, again, HVAC, electrical components, infrastructure components, remodeling of bathrooms, those kinds of things are working through the design phase. We'll try to keep consistencies as much as possible for the primary school, the intermediate school, and anything that's done at the high school regarding bathrooms, to have a consistent district, I don't want to say theme in the bathroom, but a same look and appeal at all of our buildings. So more to come, but again, I know our parents are very concerned about how things are going to look before and after school, and so I want to make sure that the board sees that and that this is available to the public. So, any questions from the board?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Two.
Yeah.
Will this require a board motion to wait to consolidate all three numbers for the three levels of school to get the furniture that we need? Or is that just something that...
At a later date, it will.
Later.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, the other thing I wanted to suggest, we're members of CISA 3, and I'm wondering if we couldn't coordinate with them, because if there's other schools in our area that are planning on doing the same thing, we might get even a better price if we go together with other schools that maybe have the same need. So that's something maybe to consider.
Yep, I will reach out to our
cost.
cooperating purchases.
Exactly.
Purchasing. Yep.
Because we're good members of that, might as well make use of it.
Yep, yeah, yep. Certainly exploring all options when it comes to saving money.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Would you anticipate in this example, the end of the day pickup? Currently, they make about 4 or 5 long lines. Would you anticipate all parents parking in a stall as the kids then get released to the parking lot?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And I anticipate, of course, the details are still to be worked out, but we would get buses on their way, and then kids could go to their parents. We'd probably try to keep them as separated as possible. We do have an exit, at the intermediate school, so it's possible that, parents that are getting, or students that are getting picked up, maybe they exit the building on the south, and parents, or students that are riding the buses are on the north. There's a lot of different logistical ways to do that, but yes, we do anticipate all parents being in a stall when they pick up their kids. Okay, thank you.
2025-26 pupil enrollment projections.
Okay, 1 second. Transition back. Okay, so at our next meeting, our meeting in February, I believe that's the 10th, off the top of my head, I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's what it is. The board will get information on our second official DPI count that we just conducted on the second Friday in January. This is projections, okay? So these are not official numbers. These are just our first crack at determining who's going to be in our buildings next year, right? This is not an FTE from a resident membership count, which drives revenue. These are the students that we are projecting to have in our buildings that we're going to educate next year, okay? So we've used the same pupil projection models that we've used in the past. We've got a model that we get from Baird, and then we recently had a UW Population Lab from Applied Population Lab do an updated analysis of enrollment projections. You may remember the gentleman from UW Population about a year ago. We've got that data, and so they provide 4 different models. And so if you look at on this table, and then the chart is in a PDF, you've got 21, 22, 22, 23, 23, 24 actual numbers, and then you've got 24, 25 actual, and the middle column is the Baird model, and then the next 4, baseline, 5-year trend, 3-year trend, and K-trend, those are all UW Population, Applied Population Lab models. So we take those 5 models, and in orange there, that is our average. And that's the number that we use to try to determine staffing. It is just a projection. We all know that we can have more students come in than anticipated, we can have students leave, we can have families leave, we can have families move in, etc. But these are the numbers that we've used in the past, not these exact numbers, but this process, and it served us to be fairly accurate. Last year was probably the most inaccurate that we had, and that is because we underestimated. We were able to bring in more students than we had, the raw data had shown. Okay, so we're optimistic that that can happen again, but we do need to start someplace. And so if you look at that column in orange, it's projecting us from EC through grades 12 to have 1,126 students attending the Richland School District. Again, these are actual butts and seats, with 274 being at the 4K through 2 levels, 285 at 3-6, and then 554 at the high school level. That is an uptick at the intermediate school level, and if you look at grade 2, for 24-25 actual, you'll see that we had 82 at this particular count. Again, on any given day, that number can shift a little bit, but we have 82. Those second graders will be moving into third grade, and so that's why we'll have more students at the intermediate school, bigger third grade class next year. That sixth grade class of 68 will be moving to the high school. So there's a big difference there, in 82 coming in, 68 leaving. So that's the reason why the intermediate school will have a few more. But again, this is our projections. This will be the first numbers that we use to then determine staffing, which you'll hear about in just a little bit. Again, we're going to try to make a concerted effort to continue to bring back students, try to make the Richland School District the district of choice, and have students coming in. But based on the raw data, this is where we're at, which puts us down 16 students. 1142 was our number from this year, going down to 1126 last year, or next year, which is down 16. Again, we're in declining enrollment. We know, and we can look at the classes. Grades 9 has 99 students, grade 10 has 106, grade 11 104, grade 12 100. Those are our 4 biggest classes at the 4 upper levels. Those students will be graduating over the next 4 years, and we'll be replacing them with what we anticipate to be smaller class sizes. Last year, we were able to reverse that trend, bring in more students than we anticipated, and so we actually went up a little bit. We're hoping that that happens again, but again, looking at raw numbers, this is where we're sitting. Any questions from the board on any of that? Okay.
2025-26 staffing projections.
Okay, and this is on for information and discussion at a meeting here in February. This will be on for action, but I wanted to give the board an opportunity to see it in advance. Now that we've got some pupil enrollment projections, and yes, we're going down 16, but when you spread that out over 13 or 14 grade levels, that's just a tad over 1 per grade, okay? Minimal impact, and again, we're optimistic that we'll be able to increase those numbers. Based on those trends, we're hoping, and we will be asking the board here at a meeting in February, to stay status quo as it relates to staffing, okay? We think we're going to have roughly the same number of students that we've got this year. Therefore, we think we're going to need the same number of staffing that we would have, that we have this year. The 2 variables that could lead to staff changes that are unpredictable, okay? One is special education. As you know, IEPs are driven by federal law, and what's in those IEPs we have to follow, which could lead to additional staffing in the form of a teacher, support staff, or other. So we've got to be cognizant of that. That will always be kind of something extra. And then the other thing that we're still trying to work out is what does our alternative education options look like? We've got some really, really good alternative education options right now. We're actually getting approached by other school districts around the area to learn more about what we're doing from an alternative education option. But I'm not content with where we're at, and I think we can continue to do better. We want to continue to expand partner. We want to continue to look at ways to meet all of our students' needs. And so with that, Alt Ed is potentially another option where we may come back to the board and have a proposal on what that could look like and what the staffing would be required to make that happen. And again, ultimately, it would be the board's decision. So outside of changes in alt ed and outside and changes in special education, we are hoping that we can stay staff neutral. Our referendum should allow us to do that from a financial standpoint. Happy to answer any questions, but again, the board would take action on this at a meeting in February. So, any questions?
I guess, excuse me, just to clarify a little bit, the staffing is full-time equivalency, so there could be changes in the number of aides that are part-time. There could be changes in switching from 2 part-time people to 1 full-time person. And then obviously there could be shifts in where those people are located. So if there's a bigger class that will be moving up into the high school, then one of the intermediate people might need to move to the high school level. So just to clarify that a little bit, that just because the numbers are going to stay the same, it might look a little bit different in how they're comprised.
Yeah, that's a great point. We're always looking for ways to be more efficient, and so sometimes that might be, we can do X, Y, and Z differently by shifting people around. We still have the same number of people, but gain efficiencies in how they're used. So thank you for that.
I had 2 questions. One's now brought up by Mr. Bailing's point, but on my first, do you or Dr. Johnson know what our current enrollment is at the partner school?
25?
Which is approximately double from what it was last year?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Second question, you mentioned, oh, now I lost it. It must not have been important.
Something based on Mr. Bailey's comments.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was drowning on a bit though, so I've not important.
Well, if it comes up, this agenda item will be back on in February. So, any other questions? Okay, thank you.
I'll make the motion then to move into closed session pursuant to section 19.851 E and or F and the Wisconsin statutes 118.125 to consider employment, promotion, compensation of employees, discussing individual employee hiring and administrative evaluations, and to discuss individual student discipline and student open enrollment applications and individual pupil information related to those applications. The board may take action on these issues in closed session if necessary and appropriate. At the conclusion of the closed session, the board will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Madam Straxel, discussion? Straxel? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Thank you.